new topic that is about Dockerfile. And what is this Dockerfile? Okay, so we know that Docker Hub has various images. So already hosted here. So this was the one of the image which we downloaded now. Okay, when we run Docker run, it pulls this image. Okay, and it also has HTTPD. So by default, everything gets pulled from Docker Hub. Okay, and this is the centralized location, also called as Docker registry. It is a public Docker registry where everyone has put their custom container images. Okay, so HTTPD company itself has given their container image here. Even Nginx, MySQL, all have uploaded it here. Okay, so we can also do that. Okay, so for that we'll have to create an account here, and using some commands we can also do that. So let's first create our image locally. Okay, so for creating our local customized local image, okay, so Nginx we already have here publicly available, right? HTTPD, so we don't need to create that one again from scratch. But what we will do is we'll create an HTML application. Okay, this is one of the application, HTML application, index.html. And what we will do in that image itself, we'll copy the contents of this index.html. That means instead of giving us it works or the default Nginx page, it will give the HTML web application as the output, the Docker container. Okay, so for that we need to create a Docker file. Okay, and Docker file, uh, the name should be Docker file. D must be in the uppercase. Okay, when we create a file, we'll have to follow some guidelines or some structure. Okay, so first one will be always we'll need a base image. Okay, so here on top of it we'll be hosting our application. So in this case our base image is Nginx itself. Okay, we are using Nginx, so internally it will download Nginx image. While creating this image, we can give a label maintainer. This is optional. Okay, so I've given my name and maintainer name. Okay. Environmental port, environmental variable, actually it is app port. Okay, so in our application we haven't defined application port here, but in case we have to define, we can define it. Okay, just for sake of demo, I've added it. Then it will set a home directory. Set the home directory means it will go inside this directory. We are saying that go inside this directory using this option work dir. So it will go to this usr share nginx html. Why? Because whatever we put inside this directory, okay, so in Alpine, okay, in Ubuntu it may be var ww html. In Alpine means nginx Alpine image. Alpine is one of the operating system like Ubuntu, okay, lightweight and mostly used in containers and all. So we'll set the home directory as usr share nginx html, and we'll copy the contents of this app directory. This app directory will be creating, inside which we'll have our index.html. So it will copy the contents of app directory inside this usr share nginx html. Okay, and whatever we have inside this usr share nginx html gets displayed on the screen. Okay, and again, this one is only for documentation purpose. Expose 80. If I write here expose 8080, that will not make the container run on port 8080 inside the container. Okay, this is also one of the interview question I ask, and most of the people give wrong answer. Expose 80 is only for the documentation purpose. So that by looking into the Docker file itself, I can say, okay, uh, the developer or the maintainer has created this application which runs by default on port 80. Okay, again I'm saying, if I write here 8080 or 90 or 100, it will not expose or make the application run on that particular port. Okay, and whenever we run a container, some process should be running, otherwise the container will die. Okay, so using this we are running the container nginx command. Okay, so this is how we create a Docker file, and after creating a Docker file, using that Docker file, we'll create our custom Docker image. We'll create an image, will not run the container, and that image will run to create a container. Okay, so let's first create this Docker file. Okay, so first we need to create this directory structure and index.html. So on my system, close one of the session. Okay, so what we'll do is first we'll do the cleanup so that it doesn't interfere. I'll just stop all the containers. We can do this in this way. Okay, I've stopped all the containers, so PS will not show anything. And now let's remove those containers. RM. So we do not have any containers. We'll have one image. Let's remove that image as well. So we'll remove both the images, httpd and nginx. Okay, so everything is clean. We do not have anything. PS or -a will also not show anything. Now let's create that directory structure and an index.html file inside it. So the path is important. Okay, so remember, I'm creating a website directory, and inside that I'm creating app, and go inside app. Okay, I'll create a directory called app and go inside app. Okay, and inside the app directory, create index.html. So we are inside app directory in which we have index.html. Now the mistake what we'll do is, for the next one is, in the website directory we'll have to create a Docker file. Do not create inside the app directory. So just go back one directory. Okay, and make sure you're in a website directory, not in the app directory, and create Docker file here. So in the website directory, I have an app directory. Inside app directory, I have index.html. That is our application. And in the website directory itself, we have a Docker file. Means the next command, the Docker build command will be running. And for that build command, it will check the current directory for Docker file, and it should be in uppercase. The D should be in the uppercase. It checks for a current location for the Docker file, and it performs the instructions given inside the Docker file. So let's create our Docker image. Okay, so for creating a Docker image from the Docker file, we'll use this command. So we are saying build Docker build an image which will have this tag. T stands for tag web app 1. Okay, and look for this dot is important. If you forget this dot, it will give an error. This dot will say that look for a Docker file inside our current directory. Okay, so I'll just press enter. So I'll just explain it. So when I ran this command docker build -t web app 1, okay, so it performed the first step, that is pull the image nginx alpine, okay, and by default from Docker Hub. So this, I performed this first line. Okay, it pulled the image, and for each step it will be creating an intermediate contain ID. Okay, so for each command there is a layer. So the Docker container consists of multiple layers. Okay, so the first layer is of the image, then the maintainer, then the environmental port and all. So next it set the label, okay, whatever it was given in the Docker file. Next we have define an environmental port 80. Okay, this is only for the demo purpose. We do not have any app port. Then we are set the user directory as usr share nginx html. So it, in short, it did cd usr share nginx html. Then it copied the app directory. Okay, again remember from where it will copy the app directory. It will copy it from the current location. Okay, from where the docker build command is running, it copied the contents of app directory inside this work directory which we have set. Okay, then this is only for a documentation purpose, expose 80, and as the contents are inside it, okay, now we should make sure that the container runs. So to make the container run, we're running in the background nginx process. So successfully we have built the image. Okay, and if you see it in a docker images, if you remember, we did all the cleanup, so we do not have the previous image. Sudo docker images. Okay, so first it downloaded nginx, so it has the nginx, and on top of it, it created one more image which has our custom index.html. Okay, so this is the docker image which we have created, and it is available locally. It is not yet in the docker hub. That will do tomorrow. And now I need to run it. Okay, so which command I'll use? Sudo docker run. Let's run it as in detach mode. Let's run it on port 8081. Okay, on the host. Inside the container, we know it runs on port 80. Even if we add something else here, it will not work. We need to map the correct port. Okay, it is mapping of the container port to the host port. Host port means the DevOps VM, and we need to give the app name. Okay, so first it will check for this name locally. If it gets, it will not go to docker hub. Okay, so just run docker run. So we have given the name, image name. We can also give name to the container. Okay, that is also web app 1. It may be confusing, but we are giving the same name as that of image. This is the image, and this is the name for the container. Okay, so it found it locally. Okay, and it created a container with name web app 1. Sudo docker images. It used this image web app 1, and it is running the container. Okay, so web app 1 port 8081, just to curl localhost 8081. Okay, it will work. Okay, it is giving our custom HTML page. Now just do IPA and do curl on the internal IP as well. That is the private IP of the EC2 instance 8081. Okay, it is running. And what is my public IP? Let's see that. And as we have opened this range 8000 to 9000, and we have opened means we are running container on 8081, it will show it on the screen as well. So let's check the public IP. .8081. So it is. Okay, so I have to refresh it. It was using the cache, so it is showing us our custom HTML page. Okay, from our custom image. Okay, so this is how we'll be creating the Docker custom Docker images. Okay, so even in the production environment, what will be happening is the developer will give us a code on some GitHub repository, okay, and on that same repository, okay, where the code is, here we have very simple code, okay, cd app, very simple code, but in production environment it will have C language, C++, Java, .NET, whatever it may be, but the Docker file will be almost similar, but we should know how that particular programming language build process is done. So for simple HTML application, we do not have any build process. We just need to put the index.html in USR share nginx. But if it is a Java application, then we'll have to use maven command to build the some jar file, okay, and we need to know how that jar file runs, okay. So here, instead of nginx, there we may download Java base image. On top of it, we'll be running some commands. So for the demo purpose, I'm using HTML, but when we will be doing project, okay, in that I'll cover Java, .NET. This two I'll cover, but not now. After 1 or 2 months, I'll create a separate videos and documents only for project. Okay, there we'll be seeing how we can build the maven project, .NET project, uh, or an node.js project. So docker file will vary, okay, but this command will be always same. We'll be copying something at some particular location. So for creating a docker file and learning how the image is built, so this is called as packaging. This package is created and saved it in a docker file, okay? Then anytime we can use that docker file and rerun it anywhere. Okay, so we haven't covered how to store it in a container registry, but from container registry, anyone can download this Docker image and run it like we did it now.